Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. It's been a few weeks for me recording an episode. We've had Easter break. I had another week off before that. So this is like my first time back on my laptop for a few days. And I'm excited. The first few days of my week off, I was a little bit, I'm going to be really mindful of my words from now on with my episode, just because I know the power of language. So little bit uneasy for the first few days because I'd planned this week off for such a long time, and then I was thinking, I don't really need it. I'll just wait. I'm going on holiday in May, so I'll just continue working. But my boyfriend, we made an agreement at the start of the year that we're going to have like a week off every quarter, and he'd booked it off from his work. So I surrendered, and the first few days, I don't know if you are the same, but being a business owner, there's always things to do, and my brain is going 24/7, 100 miles an hour. So I was struggling the first few days to just chill, and I found myself working a little bit, and I wasn't planning on taking it completely off because I just love what I do anyway, and I had a few new clients who I wanted to support, and I didn't want to just ditch them when they had just signed up to work with me. But for main client calls and all of that, I was out of office for a good, I think, 10 days in total. So it was a bit challenging for the first few days to actually relax. And then I fully relaxed into it. And I was just loving the rest of the time off, just chilling, got to see my family, Luke's family. We took Norman on some nice walks. We've had a couple of days of nice weather, which is really making me excited for spring and summer. This winter has just feel like it's dragged forever, and I can't remember the last time I just lay in the sun in my back garden. But I had a little glimpse of that over the past few days, and I am just desperate to have it be summer again. And hopefully we get a nice summer this year here in the UK. It wasn't the best last year, and I ran into a vitamin D deficiency as a result, which you will hear about today, along with a few other lab results, imbalances, good things, bad things. This is a pretty vulnerable episode that you're getting from me today, guys. And I shared on social media that I was doing this little health MOT for myself with all of these lab tests. And I just asked out of curiosity, would you be interested in me sharing? And I got so many yeses. I don't think anyone voted no. And I was like, okay, then I am an open book. I'm willing to share. I personally love episodes like this when people share more of an insight, but I didn't know if it would be boring. So I did a little poll and you guys voted yes. So here we are. In today's episode, I am sharing my recent lab results. I do at least like 2 or 3 tests every year, but this year I did, I think, 6 tests in total, which is pretty expensive, but I am completely invested in my health now. This cost me well over £1,000 of my own money, paid for this out of my own pocket. And because I had struggled for so long, or had struggled for so long with my health, I know now the importance of investing in your health. Even when you're feeling good, it's not this one and done thing where you're healed and then you just don't need to do anything. You have to stay on top of things. And with how sick I was in the past, I want to do everything in my power to never be there again. And I know the importance of prevention. Prevention is worth an ounce of cure, as the common saying says. Completely understand that and completely relate. And that's why I am practicing what I preach now and putting my health as a number 1 priority, and I will continue to do this for the rest of my life, along with investing in organic produce and products as much as possible, supplements. I just want to be in the best health possible, and I know that there are these tools out there that can allow me to do that. I'm not relying on the conventional medical system anymore and the very limited, outdated tests and medications and all of that. I'm out of that world as much as possible. And I actually had to contact the GP regarding one of these results. So if you are curious about that, stay tuned. But even just like having a phone call with someone, it stressed me out. And I was so glad that I am not in that like vicious cycle anymore, that hamster wheel of specialists and waiting 6 months for an appointment. And then when you get there, you're on a waiting list. And Very sorry, by the way, if you hear some like drilling in the background. The workers who are tarmacking my street just decided to start working as soon as I sat down to record. So hopefully they aren't going to continue much longer. But the test that I did these past few months are the Dutch hormone test. And I'm actually thinking of doing a little deep dive into all of these tests on the podcast. Let me know if you would like to hear that, see that. Because I did one recently on the HTMA to promote my mineral balancing course. And you guys enjoyed that one. And I just shared why I love it. Because there's so many tests out there, but the ones that I did today are obviously my favorite and the most beneficial, the most common ones that I run with my clients. I didn't do a HTMA, which is a hair mineral test, if you were curious, for myself this time around. So I did most of these in January, February time. I didn't do a HTMA because I only did one at the end of last year, and I don't want to cut any more hair off when I don't need to. So I do have results for that, but they're a few months old now. So I'm only going to show the ones that I've done very recently. And the others are the GI map stool test, organic acid urine test, and some blood work, and then a vaginal microbiome swab test, which is the first time that I've ever done that one. The other ones I have done before many, many times over the years. I probably spent over £10,000 in total running multiple stool tests, and sometimes there is another test that I used to run quite a lot called a SIBO test. It's a breath test, but I don't really run that one with clients even anymore because I find that some of the other ones are more beneficial. But in previous years, when I've been deep into my gut healing work, when I've worked with other practitioners before, they're like, you need to test SIBO. And I've probably done like 3 or 4 tests a year just to retest, confirm that it's gone, or if it's not gone, I do more treatment, and then I do another test, see that it's not gone again, and that becomes very expensive. So yeah, I estimate in the tens of thousands of pounds over the years. So now in comparison, it's not as much. And I don't do every single one of these tests every year, but I wanted a good MLT at the moment. And I'm currently feeling the healthiest I've ever done. And you might be wondering, why are you spending all of that money and why are you bothering testing if you feel good? And it's because I want to catch any imbalances now early on before they become a problem. There is a fine line. We don't want to just keep incessantly testing and searching for problems, because who knows, next year I might do one test, I might do no tests. I'm just going to see how I feel, but I want to also check in now that I'm feeling the best that I've ever done. And I have a couple of lingering symptoms I'll talk about in a moment. I'm not feeling like 100% healed and perfect, because no one is. The perfect health is a myth. We don't want to be aiming for perfection, but compared to how I used to feel, my labs are so much better. My health is so good. And I don't want to just keep testing and testing and testing, because you're always going to find something. I've never seen a perfect test result come back, especially of my own. So to me, this is the best that my labs have ever looked. This is the best that I've ever felt, and I want to keep it that way. And I want to see how my body looks on a lab test level when I'm feeling this way. And maybe I'm feeling, and I do think this is the case, where now I'm feeling the best that I've ever done, but I know that there's another level, because there's things that are imbalanced on here that mean that my body isn't functioning as optimally as it could be, which I'm coming at it now from an empowered standpoint. I'm excited. There was a little bit of anxiety that came up with these lab results. I think just getting so much, because I set time apart one afternoon to go through everything together, which I typically do with my clients, instead of just looking, because they all come back at different rates. The blood test takes a few days, the organic acid and stool test take a few weeks. So what I did is I just like kept them saved on my laptop in my inbox, and then I went through everything like I would a client in an afternoon. And I did feel a little bit overwhelmed. So I completely understand how clients feel, especially if they've gone from not knowing anything about what's going on to me working with them. And I'm like, yeah, you've got these 20 imbalances and here's what we're going to do about it. But I think just with the stress, and I'd call it trauma at points with what I went through with my health. Just how sick I was and how gaslit I was from the conventional medical system and how like isolated I was and everything. It did bring up a bit of anxiety going through all of these reports, seeing the results, seeing that there were still things to work on, but I really caught myself pretty quickly and just told myself that this is an ongoing process. It can feel like it's never ending, but I am nowhere near as I don't need to be anywhere near as like strict and rigid with things and take as many supplement support anymore or put as much effort in as I used to with all of this. But it is an ongoing journey. It's not a one and done deal. We are constantly going to be working on, or we should be constantly working on and investing in our health. This is a lifelong process that we're on. So I'd say the lingering symptoms that I have, and I've spoken about this like openly online, I've never said that these symptoms are completely gone. The few things mainly are all still related to histamine sensitivity. So when I was at my worst, these became extreme. It was very much like I was in an allergic state 24/7. I would faint. I would have seizures, migraines, etc. So in comparison, this is nothing, and I would happily live my life this way. But me being me, I just want to explore more and try to get my body in like the best shape possible. And I take this as like my body, maybe my body is still trying to tell me something, but definitely not doesn't affect my day-to-day life anymore. So the histamine sensitivity can manifest as slight dizziness upon exertion. So when I'm at the gym and I'm lifting heavy, or I have I run somewhere, or I have a bit too much caffeine, or I'm a bit stressed, I can get a little bit dizzy sometimes, but I never faint, and I haven't fainted unless I've been ill, like I had a viral infection around Christmas and I was like passing out then. But yeah, I was sick, and some skin flushing. So when I eat a lot of high histamine foods and leftovers, my cheeks can get a little bit rosy with rosacea. And the other thing is, this wasn't like a top priority back then because I just wanted my energy, I wanted my brain to work, I wanted my digestion to be normal. So back then, my like body fat levels weren't, well, they were when they were like 40 pounds overweight, because I have lost a significant amount of weight, about 40 pounds. So now I feel like at first I thought it was just loose skin. You know, when you see these people who have had surgeries and they've lost a lot of weight and they have just this sagging skin, I thought that was the case for me, but I don't think it is. I think it's actually still some just like body fat. And I'm not by any means saying I'm fat, and I'm completely happy with my body, love my body, all of that, but I can still want to lose some body fat because I do think it's a bit more than it should be. I am typically quite lean, so just carrying a little bit extra, especially if it's on my thighs, I'm suspecting something's going on with my hormones and my cortisol and my blood sugar levels, which the lab tests have confirmed. So I just would say that I'm looking a little bit more jiggly than normal, and I wanted to investigate that. I don't need to lose any more weight, but I have quite a bit of muscle on my frame, but it's just covered with some body fat. So I wanted to explore that. But my acne is gone, my energy is amazing, my brain is functioning great. These stubborn symptoms that I had for such a long time that just affected my life, my ability to function, they're all gone. So now it's like I'm in the optimizing phase. This is like the cherry on top of the cake. Let's see how good I can feel. That's the approach that I'm coming to it at. But I'm so happy with my health, my progress. And we will get into the lab results. I know you're all eager to hear what's going on. And this just shows that, yeah, everyone's got stuff going on. And I'm going to share, if I've done the test before, like I said, all of them apart from the vaginal swab test, which was really interesting. I'll share what my imbalances have been in the past as a summary, and then what's going on now. So starting with the organic acid urine test, this is a good full body test, and I'll probably do a deep dive series into these other ones like I did with the HTMA. But the organic acid test, basically the first page is looking at your gut function. It can give insight into mold toxicity, yeast and fungal overgrowth. That's way more accurate on this test as opposed to a stool test even. So I've had people with raging yeast overgrowth. The stool test comes back normal, but the organic acid urine test comes back high. With mold, it can pick it up sometimes, but not always. Like when my body was like really sick from mold, it didn't show up on the organic acid test, but it did show up on a specific mycotoxin test, which I haven't run this time. So it gives insight into the gut, but it's not a specific stool test. It's just looking at the urine metabolites of certain compounds. It's really good at looking at mitochondria, looking at your neurotransmitters, looking at toxicity, detox. I really love this test, and I do use this more than stool testing these days because it just gives me more data than looking specifically at one area. But I did both because I'm a geek. The main takeaways from this test, which I was just really happy about, is that I had signs of B vitamin deficiency, which didn't surprise me. I did think I was getting quite a bit from food because I eat animal protein and that's where we should be getting it from. But I haven't been eating organ meats in months and months now. I haven't been going to this farm that I typically do for a long time. It's just a bit out of the way and I've not had time, honestly, to go. I could order them online. I could look somewhere else. So I definitely need to get back into it because I do miss my chicken livers and I could sneak beef liver into things. I do eat red meat, but stress burns through your B vitamins very quickly as it does with your minerals. And I have been a little bit more stressed. I think I need to do a solo episode on this as well. I shared a little bit on Instagram, but I just feel like the past few months I've been thinking of like motherhood and how am I going to manage everything, and do I need to hire more people on my team to support me, and how's the business going to look, just future pacing, and that has been stressing me out a little bit. And I feel a bit more calm after my week off because I've put some plans in place and I've been thinking I don't want to have kids for another couple of years, but my Virgo organized brain just wants me to get organized and get started with the planning. So it wouldn't surprise me if my B vitamins were low, and they weren't rock bottom, but they did show up folate, B5 and B6. It doesn't test every single B vitamin, but the B12 and folate in particular are intracellular B vitamins, so they're actually more accurate than a blood test. I think on my blood test, they both showed normal, but on the blood test, they both showed normal, but on the cellular test, the organic acid, they actually showed deficient. So I'm going to take that as I'm lacking. Every single organic acid test I've ever done has showed a B6 deficiency. And I did stop the majority of my supplements a few days before, just so I could get a truly accurate picture. And surprise, surprise, I was B6 deficient. And at this point, I have pretty much confirmed myself that I have a condition called pyroluria, which is where just genetically, and this can be triggered by stress or some sort of infection or trauma, your body just burns through B6 and zinc mainly. There's a few other ones in there. Those nutrients just extra quick. Your body just needs so much B6 and zinc compared to someone else. This can manifest as a few conditions like social anxiety or acne or low stomach acid and all of the associated symptoms relating to that. And I've just done like so many tests. My mineral test, last time I did one last year, showed zinc deficiency after I'd stopped supplementing. So I just know now I'm probably just going to stay on zinc and B6 for the rest of my life because my body needs it and I can't get enough through food alone, unfortunately. So off the back of this, I just today actually have received my supplement order, and I have to be careful as well with B vitamin supplements, with them sometimes being an acne trigger. So because my skin is doing so good at the moment, and I am just really happy and grateful that it's finally clear after 10 years of struggling with horrible breakouts, I want to keep my skin clear. So these really good quality B vitamin supplements that I use with clients, they can be acne triggers if you're already prone to it. So I prefer to do it through food. So I'm going to do that, but also I'm going to do it through like a beef liver supplement or beef kidney supplement. Beef kidney is a bit more histamine supportive, which is what I need as well. So that's like a great supplement. It's going to give me some B vitamins, and I'm going to increase my dietary intake. And yeah, that should help with the B vitamin deficiency, then this has a knock-on, the fact that I was B vitamin deficient has a knock-on effect on so many other things. You need B vitamins to detox. My detox markers were pretty good, actually. There was nothing like majorly going on with that. B vitamins are needed for hormone production, which we'll talk about. They're needed for neurotransmitter production as well, which was another thing that's come off the back of this. The organic acid urine test showed the low neurotransmitters, as did the Dutch test. I do have another test like sat in my cupboard waiting for me to do it. I actually won it last year through, I think, Regenerous Labs. I won a competition on Instagram, which was fun. And I won this neurotransmitter panel, but I've just not had time to do it. I was a bit confused how to do it, in all honesty. So I should get around to that. Maybe after I've done a bit more work to see if I can make a difference first and then use it later in the year. We'll see. But my neurotransmitters on the organic acids were low. The serotonin, what was the other one? Adrenaline and dopamine, which has been a pattern in the past. And these are often made in the gut, but my gut health is looking pretty good at the moment. It is actually the B vitamins and the minerals that are contributing to this. On my last HTMA last year, I was low in copper. So I think that is a factor. B6 is really important for all of these neurotransmitters too, which I've just shared I was low in, and I think I'm just genetically predisposed to that. And then the other one is vitamin C, which I haven't been taking either. I do think my body was hit quite badly. Start of this year, I had 2 viral infections back to back. I think I was a bit stressed and overworked leading up to Christmas. Then I had an illness which started on the 23rd of December. So all over Christmas break, I had the flu. And then I think I got better for a few days. And then Luke had another illness and then I picked that up. And then since that point, my HRV, and this has been frustrating me as well. So I've actually stopped syncing my Oura Ring for a few days now, just to not have that be another thing like what's going on. But my HRV hasn't been as good and it's really annoying me. My average was over 100 for years up until January, and then this like weakened immune system that I've had since after I had these 2 viruses back to back, my body just hasn't fully recovered just yet. So I think I really need to strengthen my immune system, take some of these supplements and minerals, and then I'll start tracking and hopefully see my HRV up more, because for me, something like a 50 is way too low. For someone else, that might be amazing. If you're at a 10 or an 11, some of my clients are, you might be thinking, don't complain. But for me, my average has always been over 100. And I'm not just putting it down to the fact that I'm turning 30 this year. So my neurotransmitters were low. And that was the only thing on the organic acid test that showed up. The B vitamin deficiencies and the low neurotransmitters, which is likely from the B vitamin deficiencies mainly. In previous years, I've had so many imbalances on this panel. I've had glutathione deficiency. I've had toxicity and inflammatory markers show up. And the last time I tested, it's been a good few years, but definitely since I moved from mold, maybe like 2021, I had elevated yeast overgrowth. And I've done like several gut protocols since, and just the fact that I've been out of that environment for a few years has meant that my yeast levels have come down. So they're now in normal range, not an issue anymore, which I am extremely pleased about, because that was a struggle for years. That was causing so many problems, including my skin. The next test I did was the GI map stool test, and I've done a good number of these in my life. It never gets any more fun to do, but I always love the results. Within this, everything again was pretty good. In the past, I've had parasites show up, and this isn't even the most accurate. There's no accurate test out there for parasites, but I've had parasites show up several times, so I must have been riddled with them. I had some slight dysbiosis, meaning that a couple of more bad bacteria were elevated. I think it was Staphylococcus or Streptococcus, which could have been from the infection that I had at Christmas. I had a lot of throat symptoms going on. Luke had tonsillitis before Christmas. And then one of my main good bacteria called Akkermansia, which is really important for metabolic health and blood sugar and weight management. So this is where I'm coming at from my my body fat levels that I want to reduce, this could be part of it. And it probably doesn't have anything to do with my exercise or my food at this stage. Your gut bacteria can be really like integral with this. So this one's involved in having more insulin sensitivity, which is really cool. So that was below detectable levels, meaning it's probably there, but it's just very, very suppressed at the moment. So I've actually got some prebiotics that are specifically designed to raise this type of bacteria. I have yet to introduce them in because there's actually some other like treatment that I need to do for my gut microbiome first, and then I'll come on to that, but I'll explain later. But yeah, compared to other tests that I've done, the stool test looked pretty good, honestly. I was just like going through the next page, looking for something major, and there's actually nothing. And I don't have any digestive symptoms at the moment, which is phenomenal because that was the bane of my life for so long. I had acid reflux, I had pains in my stomach, I'd walk around holding my stomach because it was that bloated, and I was just trying to like support. It's like I was holding up a pregnant belly just to get some relief because it was just like a nightmare. And I've had constipation, loose stools, undigested food in my stools, oily stools, just anything you can name. I've probably had that at one point or another. So now no symptoms at all with digestion, feel amazing, very happy with that. I don't even think about my digestion anymore, which is perfect. I do have H. pylori that is present. So this is a bacteria that lives in the stomach. And it also looks at these things called virulence factors, which is how pathogenic, so to speak, that the H. pylori is. The long name is Helicobacter pylori, if you want to do a bit of researching. But this can be a commensal bacteria. It's present in about 50% of the adult population, but not everyone is symptomatic. So I think in my case, because I've done H. pylori protocols before, and it's helped, and I think it was elevated in the past, but now it's just present and I'm not really experiencing any symptoms associated. However, it can be linked to things like low stomach acid and nutrient deficiencies. So I'm just going to be mindful of it. It may be something that I come back to in future if I'm taking all of these B vitamins now and things like zinc and it's just not fully being absorbed, then I need to look at why is that. And it could be that the H. pylori is preventing me from absorbing, but I'm not going to do any treatment just yet because, like I said, I don't have any digestive symptoms and it's not like top priority. There's other explained reasons for my other deficiencies. And then one of the surprising things, so I've definitely like hyped up this surprise, but I was actually shocked with some of these results, honestly. One of them being on this stool test. On the very last page, there's a section for looking at digestion markers, and my elastase levels were a little bit lower than I'd want them to be. So this is overall digestion, absorption. Stress can contribute to that. I need B6 to make stomach acid, so this is fine. I can be working on that over the next few months. But the thing that shocked me was elevated gluten antibodies. There's a marker called anti-gliadin antibody, and this can be a sign of someone eating gluten and having a response to it. I was strict gluten-free for years, but probably 10 years or so, and only over the past year or two, because I've had no digestive symptoms or obvious reactions to it, I have been, let me just sort my hair out, it's annoying me. Over the past year or so, I've been having little bits of gluten every now and again, like a little biscuit with my coffee. At restaurants, I'm not going to ask, is the gravy or the sauce gluten-free? I'll just have it because I feel fine. But it's having an effect on my body. I do think I have a more stronger gluten sensitivity, and it's not manifesting anymore as bloating or pain or acne, but it's manifesting as an inflammatory response that I'm not necessarily seeing day to day. And this is maybe once a week I'll have a small amount of gluten. I wouldn't have a regular slice of bread or a sandwich or anything like that. It's just like little trace amounts. So that's why it shocked me. It's because my body was responding quite a lot to even the small exposures that I was having. So I am now strict gluten-free. I never tested for celiac, so I don't know if I have celiac disease, but I do have autoimmunity in the family. My mum's side of the family, it's more thyroid, Hashimoto's, which was something that I struggled with a little bit when my health was bad, but now the antibodies have come back into range, which can happen. Then on my dad's side, his family has struggled with psoriasis, which I've never had to deal with, thankfully. But I think I do just need to be more mindful of little bits of gluten because it is just causing an inflammatory response. That could have been knocking my immune system down, especially over Christmas. I was having the odd dessert every now and again and get eating out more, probably exposed to more gluten. And then I did this test after Christmas, after my immune system had been knocked from the illnesses. So it all adds up, like little things do make a difference, positively or negatively, in your life. So just be mindful, and this is where tests can be really helpful and just pulling you back on track when you started to slide a little bit with your healthy habits. So from now on, I am strict gluten-free again. And yeah, that was one that I was pretty shocked about. The next test, and that was the only thing on the stool test. Previously, I've had elevated steatocrate, which is a marker of fat malabsorption. So there would be a lot of fat present in the stool, and that can reflect bile, gallbladder health. So that all looks really healthy now. There was one marker that for years and years, it was rock bottom. It's a marker called secretory IgA, SIgA, and it's a marker of your gut immune system. I had a clinical call, like when one of the first tests I ever did, a stool test when I was a student, and the team, like the practitioner lab team, they said it's one of the lowest ones that they've ever seen before. The range, my optimal range is between 1 and 2,000. Mine was like a 10. This was when I was living in mold. This is when I had parasites and yeast overgrowth, probably towards the start of my healing journey. And it just wouldn't budge for ages. Trauma can do that too, but for me, it was mold. It was suppressing my immune system so strongly that these infections were just taking over my body. So now my secretory IgA is in perfect range, and I am so happy about that as well. So I'm celebrating as I go through. Even though there's things to work on, I am so proud of all of the improvements that I've made. Next test is a Dutch test. So this is a dried urine test for comprehensive hormones. That's the acronym. And I've done a few of these over the years. It has to be timed in the luteal phase. So the week or so leading up to your period, when your body should have ovulated, made progesterone. You should be in this more progesterone dominant state. Over the years, I have never seen my progesterone levels in a good range. For many years, I was not ovulating at all, even though I had a regular cycle. When I came off the pill, I had no cycle for 2 years, so I wasn't ovulating then, obviously. So I don't even think I tested with a Dutch test until I got my periods back. But then for the few years after I got my period back, and it seemed to be in a normal range, it was a little bit lengthy, getting towards 36-day cycle. I thought that was my normal because it happened for so long, but actually my normal is more of the textbook range of 28 days, which is really interesting. So before I thought I was ovulating, but I wasn't. I've probably done about 5 Dutch tests in total now, and I've never seen my body ovulating before. This time, my body had ovulated, but my progesterone was just so low again. And this was another frustrating thing because I don't have any menstrual cycle symptoms. My breasts were a little bit tender the few days leading up, but there's been times in the past, literally 2 weeks from when I thought I ovulated, but I didn't, until I got my period, my boobs were just so sore. I wouldn't even want to touch them. I couldn't exercise. So in comparison, a little bit of tenderness, even with some clients, they have normal progesterone, but maybe the estrogen detox is a bit off and the breasts get a little bit tender. So it's like very tender, very slightly tender this time round. But I think my cycle came on cycle day 20, day 9. I had fertile cervical mucus around day 14. I had like a good mood. I didn't have any period problems. The odd month I'll see tiny little blood clots in my period blood, which I know in the past have been worse. There's been some months where it's not happened. So maybe that's a little sign that my progesterone's been low. But other than that, no heaviness, no pains, absolutely great experience most months. So to see my progesterone being low, this was another thing that I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And it did worry me a little bit in terms of fertility and future like pregnancies, like what's going on. I know my body can ovulate. I know I'm absolutely going to get this under control, but it is a bit discouraging, like when you've been on your health journey for a while and when you feel good and your body still is not producing robust progesterone. This could have just been a fluke. It could have just been this month, wasn't good timing, didn't like ovulate strongly, and then maybe this month, like the time after, the cycle after, back to good progesterone. It could also be with any of these things an error with the testing. So I've always got that explanation. So what I'm going to do instead, because I want to be proactive and not just like, boo-hoo, like my body's broken, I'm going to just investigate more and try to get it back on track. So there was another, what I've realized with the Dutch test as well, and it does say it in the commentary, but every time I've done a Dutch test, my testosterone has been very, very low. And at first, for the first few years, I thought it was just down to me living in mold, because that can be common, like low testosterone in women or men can be due to mold. But I, this time, did a blood test with testosterone around the same time, and that was actually fine. And they say that some people, it's like a genetic mutation where the testosterone doesn't show through urine well. So it says to confirm with a blood test. I did that this time, and now it's normal, which I would expect because I've had PCOS symptoms in the past, and with that, you typically get high testosterone and high androgens. That's something that I struggle with previous years of doing the Dutch test. My other androgens and DHEAS, etioclanolone, androstenedione, DHEA have always been really high. This is the only year. The last time I did one was again in 2021, a few months after moving. This is the only year that my androgens have all been normal and within range, which also makes sense. My skin's now under control, my cycle's regular. I don't really display PCOS symptoms anymore, but the fact that I saw low testosterone, that freaked me out, but then I did the blood test, that confirmed everything was okay. So what I'm going to do is do a blood test, because the blood test panel that I did this time doesn't have progesterone in it, because it has to be done at a certain time of the cycle. So I'm going to do a serum progesterone test soon and see what that comes back with. Because if that comes back normal, then it's likely that my body just doesn't show progesterone well through urine, like it's not doing with testosterone. Whereas if my progesterone's low on the blood test, I need to do some further investigation and see what's going on with that. I hope it's the former, but if it is the latter, I suspect that it's due to stress. Surprise. And I wouldn't say that I stress. I love my job. I love what I do. I have a good work-life balance, but my brain is mainly just worrying about the future at the moment and like navigating motherhood. My sister-in-law had a baby last year, so I'm an auntie now, and just seeing her like navigate that and how much her life's changed, and she was just saying like how stressful it is, and just some friends they're like joking, don't have kids, and I really want kids, but I'm really working on this on like a mindset front too, but I just hear like so many conflicting things, and I just want to hear more positive stories about how you can manage it all, and I want to be that example. So if anyone has any positive motherhood stories, please send them my way, because I really could do with it. But me being in my masculine more and trying to control things and not going with the flow, this week off, I shared it on my stories, but it really highlighted the fact that I'm not really living the present ever. I'm just always thinking ahead, and I get really excited with work stuff and creating new things, and I want to grow my business. So I'm really career driven, and I just love what I do and just love learning. I'm always reading a book, listening to a podcast, doing another course. But I think that might be, I don't know, having an effect on my hormones, particularly my progesterone, because if we think about fertility, that is the progestation hormone. We need to be living In the present, we need to be in a parasympathetic rest and digest state, which is also the feed and breed state, for us to have optimal fertility and to carry a life. So if I'm just constantly thinking ahead and creating all of these imagined scenarios, that can trigger similar hormone release, stress hormone release in the body, and burning through my minerals just as much as if there was an actual saber-toothed tiger in the room. And this is what I do, I compare myself to other people. Some of my clients, they have so much going on, they definitely know that they're stressed. So in comparison, I'm like, oh, I'm not stressed because I love my job and I'm not working an office job that I hate, and I've not got 5 kids that I need to look after and parents that I need to care for. So I downplay my stress, but I know that mental stress, and it doesn't have to just be worrying about the bills or relationships, like all of that is fine for me. That's not my stress. My stress is just more imagined stress, which can just affect the body as much. So I will probably update you on that. If you want to follow along, let me know. I'm not sure how interesting this is, my fertility and stress levels for you, but please let me know, and I will share what comes back with my progesterone and that whole investigation. So that was one of the other shocking findings from the test, and a little bit annoying, but I am hopeful. I know that I'll figure it out, and I know that I'm going to have my babies and they're going to be healthy, and I'm going to thrive in my motherhood era. So continuing with the Dutch test, this also looks at your adrenals. So it looks at sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, androgens, and your stress hormones, your adrenal health. The other thing that showed, this is the one that probably had the most weird findings for me, was that my estrogen was a little bit low as well. Not low, but just on the low end of normal, which I'd rather have that than it be too high. But I'm still just looking at everything overall. So if everything else was fine and the estrogen was a bit low, that'll be okay. But because other things are off, I'm just like wanting to investigate a little bit lower. But when I said all of these tests link up, they do. Because if my B vitamins have been low, I need B vitamins to make, use, and detox hormones properly. So that could definitely be involved. I need B vitamins and minerals like copper to keep my adrenals nice and happy. Because if my adrenals are off, then my sex hormones are going to be off because of that like whole HbA OT axis, the pituitary, the thyroid, the adrenals, the ovaries, they're all interconnected. So I'm not just going to like take a bunch of herbs to boost my estrogen, because there's also some nuances with the estrogen, like some of it can be stored in the tissues and not necessarily seen on a urine test. So I'm not going to do anything to boost my estrogen. It's more just looking at my overall hormone production. And if my body is stressed for some reason, that comes down to my like brain level. So it's not an organ issue necessarily. And my estrogen's been high in the past. So that's why I don't want to boost it too much. And as my body fat levels have come down, when I was more overweight, my estrogen looked higher. So it looked like it was on the high end of normal, but body fat can actually produce estrogen as well. But yeah, if my body is stressed, it's my pituitary gland and my hypothalamus that are perceiving stress, and they could be automatically and on purpose turning down my hormone production. And when it comes to my symptoms, we need progesterone to stabilize mast cells and my histamine. So the fact that I'm maybe not producing the best progesterone at the moment, and this is really common, by the way, with my clients, a lot of people have low progesterone. It's such an epidemic these days, unfortunately, with environmental toxins and stressors from all different angles, and this more like masculine energy that a lot of women are still in, myself included. It can really deplete your progesterone. What was I saying? So yeah, the symptoms that I'm having, the progesterone helps with my histamine, so that's something else that I can be working on, and another reason for my lingering histamine symptoms, mast cell symptoms. And my estrogen being a bit off, that can affect your fat distribution, your muscle mass. If you think of someone going into menopause, they have very like lowered estrogen, lower progesterone, sometimes lower testosterone levels, and they can complain of weight changes. So they are still exercising and eating the same, but they start to get a bit of a belly, or the thighs or the bum starts to grow, or they become a little bit flabbier, to use a pleasant word, but that's the only way I can way I can describe it really for myself. But the low estrogen could be contributing to that, maybe. So I'm going to explore that a little bit more. And then my stress hormone levels. So my free cortisol, I think I don't know, I might have skewed the results a little bit because I had some caffeine. I forgot when I was doing the test, and I had a cup of tea in the morning. Can't remember if it was a green tea or just a regular breakfast tea, but it had caffeine in it. So I'm not sure how much of that affected my free cortisol levels, but they were a little bit high, especially at that time. So I will probably retest this test later in the year, because if I drank caffeine, that is going to raise my free cortisol. So that's what's available at the tissue level. It only represents 1 to 3% of total production. So my overall total production was a bit on the, it was like there's a range, there's the middle, and that was like between the lower quarter, but still in normal range. So again, combined with everything else, there probably is some work to be done. So I'm going to work on all of that, but it's not a concerning level. And the reason for low total production of cortisol, in my case, could be some issues with iron, which I will come on to from the blood test, stress, cortisol, liver detox, maybe thyroid, but I've investigated my thyroid. That all looks okay. The only marker that I've not done is reverse T3. So that is another test that I could do eventually. But the testing companies that I use don't typically do that because it's very sensitive and it can be quite expensive. But yeah, something else to explore. So my cortisol results might have been skewed from my mistake, but I will only know that when I retest in the future. But it wasn't too bad. My adrenals looked really good compared to what they have been in the past. They have typically, in every other test that I've done, been very high free cortisol, very high total metabolized, which is just overall produced cortisol, just been off the charts. Body's been very inflamed. So now they've come down. The last test I did, I think, was in 2021. So it could have been that after moving, my inflammation just lowered so much and my body went into more of this like crashed state that I'm still working to recover. And because I've not done a test in the past 3 years, I don't know how good or how bad things have looked since. This could be the best that they've looked for a while, or it could be the lowest that they have been and they're kind of starting to go a little bit worse over the past few months. I have no idea. This is why we don't just treat the lab test. We don't just do a one-off test and then base the rest of our life off that. We check in more regularly and see what is going on. So yeah, the testosterone being low, that was inaccurate for me because of my genetics. The blood test said it was fine. The estrogen and progesterone were a bit low, but still in normal range. And then my adrenals were a little bit off, which could also just be from the increased stress recently. And then last 2 tests were the blood test. I've touched on a few things here as we've gone through, but the main takeaways here were a few of my red blood cell markers like MCH, MCHC were a bit high, which can indicate B vitamin deficiencies, copper deficiency, vitamin C deficiency, or iron imbalances. So I'm pretty sure I had all of those things. I've confirmed at least a B6 and B5 deficiency on the organic acid test. The test last year I did for my minerals showed low copper, but that could have been normalized now. I've not retested since. Vitamin C is likely a deficiency. I see that very commonly. And then with iron, I have more of an iron overload, an iron excess situation. I feel like it can go either way with my clients. Either someone, when their body is out of whack, it either goes very low with the iron, and that was me at the start of my health journey. I had a lot of iron deficiency, and maybe me taking iron supplements has contributed now to the fact that my iron gets a little bit higher, and we can store iron in the tissues. So there's more than just looking at your ferritin or your serum iron. There's other minerals that go into this. So for as long as my copper's out of range, my iron is going to be a little bit off because that's involved in iron recycling, as is vitamin A. but my serum iron, my transferrin saturation, and my ferritin were all on the high end of normal, which can be both a cause of inflammation, but also a sign of inflammation in the body. I have since donated blood, so this can be a really good way to get excess iron out of the body, but you want to test first to just make sure that this is the case, because if you've got extremely low ferritin, this would not be the best thing for you. But for a number of reasons, I suspect that I have this iron overload, so the copper deficiency, probably the B vitamin deficiency, the fact that I do eat a lot of animal protein, but I don't think that's like the main one. What was the other one? Oh, the fact that I was on birth control pills for 2 years, they have some iron in there. The fact that I didn't have a proper period, I didn't bleed at all for 2 years, that can contribute. So I think my iron levels have likely come down from the blood donation, and I'm going to get back into the habit of doing that multiple times a year. That you can only go 3 to 4 times anyway, but just because this is something that I'm more prone to, and if you are menopausal, you're not bleeding anymore, or you're a male, this could be a good, if you're like eligible to do it, can be a good habit to get into and benefits other people, which is nice. So I have been doing that, but I've also taken a few supplements to help like scavenge, if that's the word, scavenge the iron, bring the iron levels down and get my body using it a little bit better. My vitamin D was low, not so surprising because I've not been on holiday in a while. We didn't get any sun last year. And yeah, that's quite common, but I've not taken a vitamin D supplement. I am waiting until the sun comes back out, which is pretty much now at this time of year we can start producing vitamin D again. Let's see. I did confirm, as I said, my testosterone was normal in the blood work, which was nice to see, but my estrogen on this blood test was also a little bit low because I did this on cycle day 3, which is when I was on my period. It should be low, but it was a little bit on the low end of normal for where I was at in my cycle. Same with vitamin D. It should be the lowest point when I did it at the end of winter, but I don't want it much lower than what it was. It was a 55, by the way. I'd want it the rest of the year like closer to 100 if possible. There's a marker called ALP, alkaline phosphatase, and typically doctors only flag this when it's too high because it can be a sign of fatty liver enzymes being elevated. But when it's too low, below 70, it can indicate a zinc or B6 deficiency. So this has showed up. Mine was a 41 and pretty much confirmed that I have issues with both zinc and B6, so I will be taking them for the rest of my life. They're important for so many things. So the fact that they're off, they could be behind every other imbalance I have. The estrogen production, progesterone definitely, neurotransmitters, histamine regulation, all of that needs zinc and B6. So this is like the last time that I'm gonna stop taking them, because there's been other times I've remembered this and then I've just slipped and not ordered them, and then I come back around. And another key sign for me is when I stop dreaming, because dreaming can be affected by these things. When you're deficient, you don't dream, or you start to get white spots on the nails in some cases with zinc deficiency. Your acne might come back, you might get signs of low stomach acid again, because like magnesium, these things are involved in pretty much every single thing in the body. So if I'm just genetically prone to having low levels, I am now just going to take them long term because they are so important. The very last thing on this blood test was my white blood cell count was below ideal. I'm looking for ideal, by the way, with all of these things. These could absolutely pass pretty much every single one on here. Everything that I've mentioned today, in some practitioners' mind, or some doctors definitely, if they even know what half of these markers are, they might say that these are absolutely fine, no issues. You're in normal range for 99% of them. But I am looking for optimal levels, and I'm going to keep striving for that, and we're going to see how far I get. I'm not coming at it from a perfectionist. I need this to be happy. I'm like, let's see, let's have a game, let's have a challenge, let's see how good things can get. Because if I still have some lingering symptoms, I want to try and support my body in giving it what it needs. There might be some things that I'm prone to long term. That's absolutely fine. My body can be my compass and feedback, magic mirror, tell me what's going on. But if there's things that I can still do, I am absolutely going to do that, because I know that without your health, you have nothing. The last one was the low normal white blood cells, just want it a little bit higher. Forgot to make a note of what the number was. I think it was a 5.1 or something, or 4.9. I'd want it at least a 5.5 optimally. I know that that's possible. I've seen that for myself before, but I think, again, that illness that I had back to back in December, that has just like depleted my immune system a bit, and I need to rebuild that back up. And yeah, that'll help, like so many other things too. Very last test was the first time they've ever done this. It's a vaginal swab test to look at the vaginal microbiome. I've mentioned this before a few times, but over the past few years, I've had some months, like every few months or so, around ovulation, my mucus has been a little bit off, my cervical mucus. So instead of it being like, I'd get a higher production of it around ovulation, but sometimes it would be a little bit more cloudy, a little bit thicker. If this is TMI, by the way, you've clicked into the wrong podcast episode. So if you're not into this chat, then maybe fast forward a few minutes. So yeah, my cervical mucus was a little bit like thicker and whiter, and I just assumed that it was an issue with candida and yeast. Because I think my holiday to Madeira one year triggered it, because I was like sat around in my wet what's it called, swimwear often, and be in the pool, and I just thought, oh, maybe it's yeast overgrowth, maybe it's thrush, because I've got a history of like candida and mold, and I just assumed that I had this really stubborn candida infection that would like show up every now and again. But I didn't have any of the itching or like abnormal smells or anything like that. So I was just a bit curious. So I thought this year I'd do the vaginal swab, because I've been using it a bit more with clients, especially if it's a fertility case or any like, yeah, abnormal discharge or anything like that. It's just a really fascinating test. It's just become more popular these past few years. And I am so glad that I did the test, because this whole time I've done, in the past few years as well, I've done things to help with the thrush, and it's never fully cleared it. And I was starting to think, like, what do I need to do? Why do I have this stubborn yeast overgrowth? I've even done homeopathy. I've done like vaginal pessaries over the years. I've done candida cleanses again. And I was getting like a bit in my head about it. Like, am I still exposed to mold? Is it this? Is it that? Do I need to go low sugar? And it turns out that the whole time, it's probably not even been candida, yeast, overgrowth, thrush. It's been more of a bacterial problem. This is like absolutely hit the nail on the head when it comes to lab tests and why they're so important, because and I'm a practitioner, so I know my stuff when it comes to health, but even I can get it wrong for my own health sometimes. And I was just so adamant that it was one problem because it looked like that and it kind of made sense, but it was actually more bacterial in origin. And some of the bacteria can be linked to bacterial vaginosis, but my symptoms don't really match with that either. And I had this picture in my mind as to what bacterial vaginosis was like. I would think of more of a grayish discharge, sometimes green, can be painful during sex. You might have the fishy odor, the fishy smell, and I had none of that. But this abnormal mucus that I was having, it can be bacterial vaginosis, which I was really surprised about. So this was like the most surprising one to me, because I never thought I had that. That would never like cross my mind. And they can manifest as the same thing. It's like when you have bloating, it could be 1,000,001 different reasons. But if you're just trying to kill the parasites, kill, you might get to a point where the parasites are gone. It's not that anymore, but you're still bloated because you just need to heal your leaky gut, or you're still bloated because now you've run into low levels of good bacteria. You're actually going the other way and you're causing a different problem. So who knows? I might have had a yeast overgrowth in the past, but I actually don't think I did this whole time, which was really frustrating. And yeah, it's more bacterial in nature. So one of the bacteria is called Gardnerella, that was high. And this test is really cool because it looks at your pH, it looks at your beneficial bacteria. It's like a stool test, but for the vagina. They also do one for oral health, they do one for bladder, and a few other things. But my pH and my beneficial bacteria in the vaginal microbiome test were really good. So I actually booked a clinical call with the team because I just wanted to chat through my results, and I was like, is it accurate for Candida? Because I know with stool tests, it's not 100%, and my symptoms are like this sometimes, and this is confusing. And she said, what she thinks happening is that because it's only happening around ovulation every so often, my pH and my bacteria are keeping it in check really well at the moment. That's like protecting me. That's keeping things like stable. But she said if those things get affected, which they can do around ovulation, when your estrogen levels change, and because my estrogen's a bit off at the moment, that could be involved. But around ovulation, your hormones and your bacterial profile look different. So she thinks then if my pH changes, then this like bad bacteria starts to take over a little bit. But then after ovulation passes, my immune system like kicks in again and keeps things in check. But if I was to leave it, or if I was to go through some sort of stress and something that affected my pH or my good bacteria happened, then it could be that I start to get issues with the more classic BV type symptoms, which I really want to avoid if possible. And I have actually like reached out to my GP to just collect the antibiotics at the moment because I haven't decided what I want to do just yet. There was another bacteria present on the stool test, on the vaginal test as well, that the lab were a little bit more concerned about, but they just wanted to flag it a little bit more. And I do know the importance of it, and it was present. It's called ureaplasma, and it's, what did they describe it as? It's not like a parasite. It's just like a type of bacteria, really. Like it's in the same family as mycoplasma, but this can be linked to fertility issues. And she said, if fertility is not like a top rush at the moment, you can happily wait and you don't want to get pregnant right away, then you can do like an indirect treatment and just see if it goes away on its own, because it can. It's kind of similar. It can be similar to HPV in the fact that it can just go on its own and you don't really need to treat it directly. But a lot of people do specific treatment on this because it can influence fertility rates and all different things, even like bacterial vaginosis and just more inflammation in that region. So I was really shocked to see this one as well. So I contacted my GP, and I'm so glad that I'm not in that world anymore, because that like was just really weird to be back on the phone with them. I did this, they've started, which is probably not new for everyone else, but this like chat with my GP online. So I sent them a message, I sent them a copy of the lab results, and she was just so passive aggressive on the phone. She's like, do you know what these bacteria are? And I was like, yeah, I've read into it, I'm a practitioner. And she was just like so belittling. So that was pretty infuriating on the phone. But I just said, like, I'm requesting antibiotics just so I've got them ready to go. And she was like, right, okay, I'll prescribe them. And then she sent them to the local pharmacist, and I didn't pick them up. I left it like 3 days because I'm not in a rush to get them. And I haven't decided just yet what's going on. And the pharmacist was like shouting at me. She's like, why have you only just come to pick them up? And because my address was wrong, I hadn't changed it because I've not been to the doctors in years. My address was wrong, I hadn't changed it since I moved last year, so she thought that I was like not the person that I said I was. And she was like, why have you not taken them if you've got an infection? And there was like a crowd of people there, so I was trying to like say it very quietly, and it's like, I don't have an active infection, it's more of a preventative thing. And she was just like resistant to give me them. I was like, I've been prescribed them, can I just have my prescription? And then I just went on my way. But they cost about £10. And my thinking is, I'm all for holistic treatment, natural herbs, etc., etc. But in some cases, antibiotics can be necessary. They can be really helpful. I don't abuse them. I'm not on them every other week. I have successfully treated other infections over the past few years with homeopathy and herbs and all sorts of things. I'll probably try some homeopathy, honestly, for this more bacterial infection. I'll call it an infection. Bacterial imbalance present. I'll maybe give homeopathy a try, but I just wanted to have the antibiotics there in case I wanted to resort to that. Because I'm also thinking, if this is still present after several rounds of gut healing, parasite cleansing over the past few years, I do probiotics, I do all the things. Maybe it's just a really stubborn overgrowth that antibiotics would just clear. They've been clinically shown, 7 days treatment. I can do all the gut rebuilding afterwards, but it could just be what I need in this moment. So I haven't decided with that one. It's either going to be more rounds of antimicrobials, biofilm disruptors, but I did some of that last year, and it's obviously still present. Maybe I work on my stress a little bit more first, because if my body is still stressed and mineral deficient and I'm trying to clear these overgrowths, then it's not going to be successful. It's the same with gut protocols. If you're trying to parasite cleanse, but you're absolutely depleted, stress out your mind, it's not going to work. So I am just undecided just yet. I'm just weighing up the pros and cons. I'm in no rush because I'm not symptomatic in that way, but it's just nice to have options, and I'm not completely set on just natural, and I haven't decided if I want to do the antibiotics yet. So if you'd like an update, if you'd like me to, I'd probably do a retest at some point as well to make sure that it's gone. But again, if this isn't too much information and you want me to share, I absolutely will, because I know that this can be really helpful for those of you who even put practitioners on a pedestal, like you must be in perfect health. Some people don't even know that I struggled with my health for all of that time. They just come to me, someone referred them, they just think that I have never struggled, I've always had clear skin, I've always been a healthy weight, never struggled with anything like that, body image, chronic digestive issues, but I have been there, I've done it. I'm now trying to keep my health as good as possible with all of these tests and protocols. But yeah, just you don't know what people are going through. And I am pleasantly surprised in some ways from my results. And pretty much all of the previous imbalances that I've had are now normal. But there's just these like lingering things that I know I'm prone to, but I've let slip. The gluten-free, the zinc, the B6, the B vitamins in general, just not eating enough liver. It's really common for that to happen because you feel so good. And then over time, you start to do less. Even coffee enemas for me, I did them every week for years. And then I went probably a year without doing any. And now I do once every 2 weeks on average. And that's a really nice balance. But something that helped me so much, I'm not just going to completely stop. I need to get out of that all or nothing mindset and remember that there's this healthy middle ground. My body is going to need some sort of support long term, definitely not as much as it was in the early days, but I still need to stay on top of certain things that make the biggest difference for me. So that was the vaginal swab. I will definitely do one of them again. I want to make sure that that bacteria level shifted, especially if I still have this abnormal discharge every now and again. And especially before I try to conceive, I want to make sure that the ureaplasma's gone, just to rule that out as like a factor holding me back. So those are my lab tests. I hope you have enjoyed this vulnerable share from me. I hope you've enjoyed it. This is a reminder that health is an ongoing process. Here are my takeaways. Health is an ongoing process. It's a journey, not a destination. Perfect health doesn't exist. Test and don't guess. And how amazing is it that we have access to functional lab tests like this in our lifetime? Functional labs are what gave me my health back. They gave me answers after years and years and years of struggling, suffering, not getting any hope from doctors, being told that everything's normal. We can't look into that for you. That's not possible. You're always going to live that way. But that's not true at all. So if you're wanting to test, if you are interested in any of these tests for yourself, And the mineral test, a HTMA, which I've not gone into too much detail, but I have done recently on the pod. If you want to do that, then I have a do-it-yourself course called I'm Balanced. You get access to a HTMA in that and the resources to like understand your report and tells you what you need to do basically. Or if you want to work one-to-one, you do get a mineral test in that package. So this is my 6-month root cause relief package. It's working together one-to-one. That test comes within that package, and then I tell you what's wrong with it, what we need to do, what we need to focus on. And if you want to do extra tests, they're available to you. They would just be optional add-ons on top of the package price. But if you're looking for answers, these lab tests can give you just that. And reminder, my one-to-one package is going to increase in price next month in May. So you've got a few more weeks to take advantage of the current prices, the current offers, including that HTMA. We can add the other tests if we need to. And I'll give you my honest advice and recommendations if you're not sure. Some people come to me session 1 and they're like, I want to do a Dutch test, I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, hold your horses. Let's just do the basics first. Let's get you eating cleaner. Let's get you on a few supplements and then test to see what's going on. So we don't just do all of these off the bat, unless you're further along in your health journey, you've got the money to, you just really want to, alongside a practitioner. I can do that with you. And next month, the package is going to go up in price. And if you sign up before May, I've not got an exact date just yet because it's just whenever I finish this extra little program alongside. But everyone who's in root cause relief, so even if you signed up last year, you're in my root cause relief package, you're going to get access to an extra course or program, whatever you want to call it. You get lifetime access to this really like valuable vault of education, and there's hypnosis tracks, mindset work going to be on there, masterclasses on fertility, non-hormonal birth control methods, the menstrual cycle, metabolism. Got a lot of alliteration there. Even my Pilates teacher and my PT are going to be doing plans for you and workout sessions and like a fitness guide. So you're going to have access to this at no extra charge when you sign up before May. So I cannot emphasize enough, if you have even like the slightest pull to work with me, just hop on a call. I offer an enrollment call, 30 minutes. It's only £40. If you do go on to sign up, you get that deducted from the package. So it's really no loss for you. But I just charge just to cover people who just waste my time and don't show up. And yeah, there's no extra charge when you sign up before May. So you'll get automatically enrolled into it. When it's ready, early May, it's likely going to be this extra little bonus. You'll get lifetime access. It's an app. There's a Kajabi app. So the Kajabi app is really user-friendly. And it just means that you've got these videos and resources to turn to. And I'll constantly be adding to that over time as well. Even if you don't want to get started, maybe May is a really busy month for you and you don't want to get started with coaching sessions as well, then even if you sign up before and just secure your place, you can then start the coaching calls and working with me one-to-one in summer if you want to. So I might be offering this course on its own at some point, but stay tuned for that. If you just want this library of resources and masterclasses and things, then yeah, I'll probably sell that on its own. But if you're wanting that, plus the coaching, plus the lab tests, plus the amazing transformations that my clients get when they're working with me one-to-one for this longer period of time, the 6 months, then this package is for you. I will link to it in the episode show notes. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got another solo episode coming next week about my fitness journey, my current routines, how I'm working out, and also the parallels that I see with the healing journey. So this is going to be a really good one. Don't miss it. And if you subscribe, it will be in your new releases on Monday. So I'll see you soon. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would love for you to leave me a rating and review on your podcast app, as this helps to support the show and it allows it to reach more people with this valuable information. Come and say hi over on Instagram. I'm at Viva Natural Health. And if you haven't already, check out my website, vivanaturalhealth.co.uk, for tons more free resources and to discover how I could support you further. I currently offer one-on-one consultation packages if you want my top level support. then more affordable group programs and self-paced online courses. So there really is something for everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you back here next week for another episode.